Welcome to The Proof is Out There. In our first video tonight, prepare yourself for a ride through the wilds of Indonesia as a group of motorcycle riders have an unexpected run-in. This is Aceh, Indonesia, located on the northwest tip of the island of Sumatra. It's known for its rugged terrain, steaming volcanoes, and now this. It's an unidentified figure. The sight so startling it causes one of these dirt bike riders to wipe out. The others pursue it. It darts into the tall grass and disappears. Now, if we slow this down and freeze it, we see a small figure carrying something. Because of its small stature, there's speculation the bikers caught sight of a legendary being called the Orang Pendek. Field researcher Cliff Barrickman heads the Orang Pendek project.
Orang Pendek are two Indonesian words that translate to short man.
He's conducted an expedition to search for the creature in Sumatra. It's described as small with a compact, muscular build like a boxer's.
The arms are longer in proportion to their legs than what would be found in humans. So this is just another species of ape, basically, that's out there. And they don't seem to have any language ability or anything like that. And all of their behaviors point to something like an orangutan, except for one strange thing. They walk on two legs. Maybe not 100% of the time, but let's say habitually.
Credible sightings date back to at least the 1920s, though the creature's existence has not been confirmed. This is the cast of an alleged Orang Pendek footprint, which one primate biologist said was a blend of chimp, gibbon, orangutan, and human. So what do you think we have here? Is this evidence of the mythical Orang Pendek, or is it something or someone else? Our experts are anxious to dive into the mystery. First up, forensic video analyst Michael Primo. He wants to know if this video is legit.
Had this been computer generated or inserted in the video, I would expect to see some indication of that.
One of the tests Primo uses is called a motion vector analysis.
The activity is almost too smooth to be faked. The way that the motorcyclists crashed, responded, reacted to the crash, and then continued on pursuit, the timing of the way that this figure was traveling on foot, it all seemed to be real to me.
So the video is not altered, but is it really an Orang Pendek? Next, anthropologist Kathy Strange says she initially thought the video could be a game changer.
There are these stories about Orang Pendek, and so at first when I saw that, I went, did they finally get this on film?
But here's the issue. The Orang Pendek is covered in fur. This figure has some hair, but has a noticeable bald spot on his buttocks.
It appears to be hairless, and so there are no eyewitness accounts where an Orang Pendek isn't noted to have very long hair on them.
So what or who is it? Biologist Lucy Eggersley has another theory. Could it be a prehistoric relative of early man, somehow still alive today?
Maybe this is a relic of Homo floresiensis. In 2003, in the island of Flores, in a small cave, a remarkable discovery was found of a hominid species that looked very similar to humans, but stood around 3 feet tall.
While the so-called Flores man lived on this Indonesian island around 50,000 years ago, in recent years, natives have reported seeing a hobbit-like person that comes down from the caves and steals from them. But Eckersley says the body type of the figure in the video doesn't quite match.
What we see in this video seems to be a thin and small Homo sapien. It doesn't look like the stocky build that I would expect to see in Homo floresiensis or any of our other extinct relatives.
Another, more likely theory?
It's possible that this could be a member of the Mante tribe. They are a lost tribe of Sumatra who are known to have lived in these areas, and they are essentially uncontacted by the rest of the human world. They are quite small compared to the average of what you would see in this area of the world.
In fact, the Ministry of Social Affairs in Indonesia is now trying to find more information about this lost tribe.
If that is a member of the Mante tribe, That would be one of the most important scientific finds in the last 50 years, easily.
Okay, after all that, here's where we're landing. The video is real. Despite worldwide speculation, the person in the video is not an orang pendek or a Flores man. Our verdict? A Manti tribesman, one of only 100 tribes in the world that are still uncontacted. He might have much to teach us, but perhaps is best left alone. It's December 2011 in Pyongyang, North Korea. Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il has just died at the age of 70, and the whole country has fallen into a period of ritual mourning. During a 3-hour funeral procession through the capital, throngs of civilians and North Korean soldiers stand in rows, dozens deep, to watch Kim's casket pass by. But after the Associated Press releases an overhead shot of the crowd, some eagle-eyed viewers notice something seems amiss.
There's a man in an army uniform who seems to literally be twice as tall as everyone else.
As we zoom in closer, it appears this soldier is about 8 feet tall. And what makes this soldier even more remarkable is that in North Korea, where famine is frequent, men are not known for their height.
North Korean soldiers are somewhat shorter than average than South Korean soldiers, and it's probably because of poor nutrition that they have.
Kim Jong-il himself often wore platform shoes to compensate for his short stature.
The average male height is around 5 feet, 4 inches, or even shorter than that.
Bear in mind also that the North Korean government is notorious for photoshopping images for propaganda purposes. Check out these soldiers at a sunset ceremony. Who needs shadows? Or this image of a thriving farm. Note the cloned sheep. And look at this impressive North Korean bakery. Plenty to eat here. And the workers can even stack the loaves in identical piles.
North Koreans are world-renowned for their propaganda and their hyperbole and their exaggeration. So it wouldn't be at all surprising if they tried to slip something in, like we have incredibly tall soldiers.
Another theory? The photo is real, and the regime is actually engineering super soldiers in a secret lab.
A lot of people speculated that maybe there was some kind of experimentation that was happening that would have created a super soldier. In 2020, a report came out that stated that China was actually using CRISPR technology to genetically modify its own soldiers, to turn them into, essentially, super soldiers. A person without regret, without pain, without compassion, without fear.
CRISPR technology is like a set of molecular scissors that researchers can use to cut and alter DNA sequences.
Some have speculated that maybe because North Korea is China's neighbor and they're allies, North Korea is using it secretly as well.
The Korean People's Army is the second largest military organization in the world. Enlistment is compulsory, and a whopping 30% of the country's population is serving in some capacity. We all know they have nukes, but could this really be the country's new secret weapon? First, let's handle the fake or real question.
I think the first thing that leaps to mind is this is just an editing glitch. They've duplicated soldiers, and then when they copied one, they accidentally made it a bit too big.
But let's think about this for a second. It seems off that North Korea would have to duplicate images of soldiers. Unlike loaves of bread, they've got infantrymen in abundance. And when West examines the tall man's uniform, he spots revealing details.
Compare it to the others, and you see that the uniform is actually a bit different. It's got this kind of longer coat that comes down further down on his legs. And it doesn't really seem like it's a small person that's been magnified into a large person. It seems like what we actually have here is actually a very large soldier.
So if this is a real person, could he truly be a super soldier? Military expert Tim McMillan says that might not make much sense, since extreme height could be a disadvantage in the field.
For one, if you're going to be used in a ground combat situation, you're a much better target than your contemporaries who are shorter than you and lower to the ground.
People say the ideal range of heights for a soldier is around 6'2", and there's very practical reasons for that. You can't fit into troop transports if you're 8 feet tall.
So if this isn't a super soldier, who could be that naturally tall? West concludes there's one man it could possibly be.
It's almost certainly the North Korean basketball player, Rim Yong-hoon. It matches him very well. His general shape, his shoulders, the shape of his head, and just the way he stands.
But why is a basketball player in military garb? Well, after the U.S. State Department initially denied the 7-foot 8-inch-tall basketball star's request to play in the NBA, North Korea honored Ri with a position in the military. The verdict? This is most likely North Korea's tallest man, Ri Myung-hoon. As to why he's so tall when North Koreans are shorter on average, well, that remains a mystery. It's possible Ri has gigantism, which is generally caused when the pituitary gland releases excess growth hormone in childhood. A quick warning that some viewers might find the following images disturbing. We're in Jambi, Indonesia. A father at a local bike shop is working as his kids play in front. Then, without warning, the family finds themselves in the path of fatal danger. Watch again. Let's slow it down and freeze. This appears to be the moment Dad senses the car, and in about 0.78 seconds, he springs into action and pulls the children to safety. Incredible. Similar displays of incredible parental reflexes have popped up recently, like in this video from Vietnam in 2019. Just watch that again. The woman is knocked off the motorbike, but still has the presence of mind to grab this child just before she's crushed by the oncoming truck. It's almost too fast to measure. Author Alexis Brooks says it might not just be fast reflexes at work here, but the power of premonition.
One of the theories that has been postulated by noted author Dr. Larry Dossey says that we all essentially have a premonition instinct, but particularly in the case of parents, where there is a unique bond with the child, premonitions can be even more likely.
But even if these parents had a premonition of danger, it's even more astonishing how quickly their bodies were able to react in a fraction of a second.
It's said that typically we only access a portion of our power, perhaps about 65%. But there is a phenomenon called hysterical strength.
There are dozens of anecdotal stories of humans in a moment of panic, summoning extraordinary strength to lift cars or other extremely heavy objects off of trapped individuals, including a mother in Georgia in 1982 who lifted a Chevy Impala off her trapped son.
When something is happening so quick, where there's no time to react, there is a rush of adrenaline that pushes us to do the unfathomable. And I think that might be something that we saw here.
Look, scientists are divided on the existence of this phenomena because it's nearly impossible to test emergency situations in a controlled lab. However, these videos might be proof of either parental ESP or superhuman reflexes. To be sure, we call in the experts.
Although it's entirely possible and conceivable to manipulate events like this using sophisticated software, technology, I don't see or detect any evidence to support that that's what was done here.
So the video is legit, but physicist Michio Kaku doubts it's proof of a premonition.
Sometimes we have premonition that an accident will happen, and then sometimes it does, in which case you think that maybe you're psychic. Most premonitions are false alarms, but 1 time out of 10, maybe it does prepare you for an emergency. So this ability of ours to, quote, predict the future by having a premonition is very selective. We forget all the misses.
So if this wasn't the result of a true premonition, perhaps these lightning-fast reflexes are related to hysterical strength.
Usually when you perform something, your prefrontal cortex acts as a check and says, slow down, do it this way, do it that way. However, in an emergency, where split-second decisions have to be made, a lot of the prefrontal cortex's decisions are overruled. All of a sudden, you take risks. Yes, muscles will tear. Yes, you're going to suffer damage, but you do it anyway because the adrenaline says you can do it.
Our verdict. While we can't prove or disprove these parents had a premonition, it was certainly adrenaline that gave them extraordinary reflexes at just the right time. It's March 2016, and the streets of Bogota, Colombia are swarming with traffic. So it's no surprise that a group of bystanders on a bridge started screaming when they saw this. Journalist Chrissy Elliott had the same reaction.
Oh my God. I was like, what is this guy doing? He dodges between vehicles, he lies underneath them, and then he just prances off.
Look again. The Daredevil Pedestrian seems to possess cat-like reflexes. Might there be a strain of superhumans with this kind of quickness?
It takes about a quarter of a second for a human reflex to react, 250 milliseconds. But there are people whose reaction time is even faster than that.
People like speed shooter Bob Munden, who holds 18 world records. He's been clocked hitting a target and replacing the gun in his holster within 175 milliseconds.
And this guy, if this is real, his reaction time must be on the next level.
Perhaps something else is going on here. Dodging traffic doesn't just take skill, it takes will.
There are about 400 known cases of something called Urbach-Wyeth disease. And what it does is it withers away at your amygdala, which is the part of your brain that is responsible for fear. So could this guy who's cartwheeling through traffic have this disease?
So we have two things to explain here. The traffic dodger's lightning-quick reflexes and his foolhardy fearlessness. Our investigation begins not with the person, but with the footage itself, as we turn to forensic video analyst Mick West.
What was strange to me was not simply how daring this was, but the fact that all the cars ignored him. They weren't actually slowing down or trying to stop or avoid him.
West's first impression tells him this traffic dodger may not be what he seems. But what clues are in the video?
What I often look at in analyzing videos is the lighting and the shadows.
We can see the whole setup. There's this pole here, and then there's this power pole, and this is what's casting the shadows in the road. So we know that that's an actual shadow, and that's the shadow of the power pole. So that should be obscured by the cars when they go by the buses.
But watch closely as the bus approaches. Two shadows appear to exist in the same place.
Now, shadows don't add together like that. If something is a shadow and then something else shadows it, it eliminates the first shadow, because light doesn't go through things twice.
Which means that this isn't a real shadow. This is something that's been added. It's kind of been overlaid on top.
That's not all West finds. Take a look as this guy lays down in the street.
This car really doesn't look like it's big enough to go over him. And I actually looked up the model of the car. It's a Renault Twingo, small car. And the ground clearance is just under 7 inches. So it's about that much, which is impossible for someone to fit their head in something that's 150 millimeters.
So it turns out seeing isn't believing. Well, then how'd he do it? West says the camera was locked down at one position on the bridge.
There'd be no traffic. So he would just wait until there was a gap in the traffic. He would run out, do his stuff, and then get to the other side.
Then by combining the solo acrobatics with another shot of oncoming traffic and some staged screaming, you have one seemingly incredible superhuman.
All these add up to it being a forgery.
We contacted the creator of this video, and he told us there's no problem with his brain's amygdala. He fears danger just like the rest of us, but he did confirm one thing. This video is 2 different versions combined with digital effects and an extraordinary imagination. Looks like we haven't found a superhuman just yet. It's May 26, 2018 in Paris, France. Lebanese chef Tarek Dandash is getting his hair cut in the city's 18th arrondissement when he hears a big commotion and runs out to the street.
وايش لقيت انه الطفل كان مدندن حاله حيوقع. انا يعني لا شعوريا سحبت التليفون وبدات اصور. يعني كان هدفي من التصوير.
Suddenly, a Malian immigrant named Mamadou Gassama leaps into action.
ولكن لما شفت هالشجاع البطل مامادو طلع شاعر بخوف هستيري. اثنين هستيري انه يسمح الله يوقع مامادو او يوقع هالطفل كمان.
Mamadou swiftly makes it all the way up to the 4th floor. Then, with the help of a man standing on the next balcony, he pulls the toddler up to safety before the boy's grip gives way.
يعني كمان كان عم يحاول التضحية بنفسه مامادو لينقذ الطفل.
Let's take another look at the video. See how Mamadou seems to launch his body so he can grab onto the rail. Incredible. Of course, free solo climbers can scale sheer rock faces and even skyscrapers, but that requires extensive training and preparation. So how did Mamadou, an everyday guy, instantly acquire such exceptional abilities? Could he be naturally hardwired to put himself at risk for others? Turns out there's a theoretical condition called super altruism.
We have super altruists among us, those who really put themselves at risk or who exert a tremendous amount of energy for some other individuals or some cause they truly believe in.
This instinct towards super altruism seems to be strongest when trying to save the most vulnerable, like children. So does Mamadou have this amazing selflessness of a super altruist, some extraordinary agility, or both? Let's go to our experts.
This guy here is obviously very athletic. You can see that he's able to reach up very high to the next balcony, but he's just free soloing. He's going up there without any kind of safety. He's not even hesitating.
Yet remarkably, Mamadou claims to have no climbing experience. So could this ascent be fueled strictly by adrenaline?
Superhuman strength is also called hysterical strength by scholars, and it is thought to occur during life or death situations, and it's a short period of time in which humans appear to have this surge of extra strength, and it is often attributed to a rush of adrenaline that flows into the blood.
In interviews, Mamadou confirms that after the rescue, he was so afraid he was shaking, a sure sign of an adrenaline rush. But back to that theory, are some folks hardwired to do stuff like this?
There could be an altruism gene, a gene that protects not just your children and your genes, but a gene that protects your group, your tribe, your people, to make sure that their genes can propagate into the next generation.
Mamadou himself later offered his own explanation. He said his faith in God gave him both the courage and the strength. So we showed the footage to Catholic miracle researcher and engineer Michael O'Neill.
Perhaps it was God giving him the inspiration to put his own life on the line and to save this child. He was truly inspired to take this altruism to a whole new level.
And though O'Neill doesn't believe this inspired incident meets the criteria of an official Catholic miracle, he does say acts like this can be considered saintly.
There's a new path to canonization proposed by Pope Francis called oblatio vitae, or the sacrifice of one's own life. This is a classic example of that this man, out of love for a stranger, he was willing to risk his own life. Throughout Christian history, the sacrifice of one's life is what it's all about.
Our verdict? Mamadou's faith led him to this act of super altruism. His physique enabled him to start the daring climb with no experience, and adrenaline gave him a boost to pull it off. Though whether there's a super altruism gene, that's still a mystery.